Hello and welcome to Guts and Glory MMA. I am Paul O'D and I am delighted to be joined on the line today by the founder of Wimp to Warrior, Mr. Richie Cranny. How are you doing today, Richie?
Good, Paul. How you doing? Good. Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing very well. No problem at all. It's absolutely our pleasure. I see the crutches in the background. We were just talking about it a little bit. How are you healing up?
Is that a pun?
Unintentional, but I'll take it. Yeah.
yeah. I've had a few of those. How you healing, coach? Yeah, good. It's 3 months now from surgery. So I shattered my heel in 4 places or 5 places. So done a good job of it. But I'm about 3 weeks out of the boot, and then I can start proper weight bearing. So I'm doing physio now, so it's good.
Yeah. Long journey. So for the last 3 months, I can't believe it's been 3 months already since that, but
yeah,
time is flying. Look, I know obviously you're probably sick to the back teeth of telling the story about how Wimp to Warrior got started, but just for our own fans here at Guts and Glory, if we could go back to the beginning of it, did you ever think, I suppose, that Wimp to Warrior would become the brand that it is today when this kind of idea came to fruition in your own gym?
No, not at all. It was, I created it to try and get people in my own gym in Sydney. That's the reason behind it. And I was trying to get some positive exposure for the sport in Australia. Because it was, when I moved over here in 2003, it was a fair bit behind in terms of acceptance and growth than it was in the UK. So that was the idea. I opened this fantastic new gym in Sydney. It was the first kind of white collar version of a gym in Australia. Nice place, showers. Guys could come in the mornings, hang their suits up, shower, train, go to work, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get the people through the door. It's just that stigma that we're always fighting. I mean, it's so much better now, but that was the whole reason behind it. It was purely to get new people into the sport.
Yeah. And the program, I suppose, is kind of billed as the ultimate human experiment. And look, I myself have done the program, and that's kind of how I became affiliated here with the gym in Cork. And just from someone who's completed the program, I know from my own experience, it is a life-changing experience completely. Was that the goal? Like you mentioned, it was to get people into the gym, but when it started to grow, was that the goal, to kind of create that full experience, not just kind of based on MMA?
Yeah, the tagline I had originally was, as you mentioned, the ultimate human experiment, because it was an experiment. That first series, I had no idea how it was going to go. I had no idea if, when they stepped in the cage, whether the first group of people would be able to perform or they just completely shit themselves. It's since then the experiment's over. It's been proven. So we use the ultimate human transformation now, because that gets used a lot. Transformation this. My puppy's trying to get in my door. But as it's the transformation that people have on the program is insane, and physical, mental, spiritually, it's fantastic. It's so rewarding. But that wasn't the reason I started the program, and I had no idea that it would have such a profound effect on the people doing it.
Yeah.
Because my journey was much slower, as regular martial artists, you train for a few years and then you start doing a couple of amateurs and you train, you build your skill set. But I didn't know how putting people in that environment, in a very condensed program, where their learning curve was so extreme, how they would cope. But it turned out to be this amazing platform for change, and almost like a reset button for so many people. And that now is really that's become more of a passion for me, because the sport's doing well, and I do a lot of stuff with IMMAF. But when it comes to Wimp to Warrior, it's all about the stories and helping people, really, as you say, I hate saying it because it's such a cliche, change your life, because people advertise cars, this will change your life.
Or coffee.
Exactly. This literally does change people's life, and the way they live their life post series, which is the most impressive thing, I think.
Yeah, and it must be heartwarming. I know I get tagged in a lot of the kind of the transformation type posts that people put up after doing the Wimp to Warrior experience, and I imagine you get tagged in hundreds of them every year. It must be heartwarming to receive those posts and just see the kind of the kind of narrative and how it plays out over, and the experience is slightly different for everyone.
It is, and you know, I could literally write a book just with emails and messages that people have sent me over the years. It would fill a book.
Yeah.
But they're all very special to me, and it's funny because they always seem to come from a selfish point of view when I need them. You know, I'll be having a real shit day, something's gone wrong, you know, promotional, COVID, there's a gym shut, you know, I'm stressing about something, and then ding, I get a message, and it'll be someone from I've never met, never had any correspondence from. Coach, I just want to tell you how this has changed my life, and you know, they talk about their story, and I just sit back, and I'm just so privileged to be part of that and be part of someone's journey that I've never even met.
Yeah,
you know, it's I love it. It's I wouldn't change it for the world.
There's definitely a movie in it somewhere.
Yeah.
Who would play Mr. Richie Cranny in a movie?
Oh, it's got to be The Rock. Come on. Danny DeVito, probably.
Yeah. Look, I suppose you touched on COVID there, and how has the pandemic and COVID affected not just Wimp to Warrior, but your own gym, and kind of how things have been for you in the last 14 to 16 months?
I don't actually have a gym anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I gave my gym up probably 4 years ago now, just because, you know, pre-COVID, I would spend 3 months of the year abroad, traveling, going to meet the gyms, setting up gyms. You know, once we got into North America and Canada and the US, and obviously we've been established in the UK and Ireland for a while, it's so much travel. And then with IMMAF as well, I'm very passionate about what I do, and if I can't do it properly, I won't do it. And you can't be a part-time coach.
Yeah.
You know, on this program, you have to be invested in the people that you're coaching and training, because you know, as much as I love coaching normal classes and stuff, but Wimp to Warrior, that's all I used to look forward to, you know, because you build this relationship with these people and you're growing with them, and you can't wait to you know be on that journey. And I tried to do it on a part-time basis, and I feel like I'm cheating them. You know, they're not getting
the full experience.
What I could give them. Yeah, so you know, I gave the gym up, and now I just guest coach. You know, I don't have any responsibility that way in terms of their progression. I just go. It's more of a talk. You know, I just talk about the experience and how it's changed people's lives, and depending where they are in the program, it might be a pep talk about finale or whatever. But you know, I do miss it though. I miss it. I still play with the idea of opening up a gym up the coast where I live now.
Yeah.
My wife will kill me, but we have been lucky. I mean, Australia's been very lucky with COVID. But the business, I mean, we pretty much went down and just went to the bare bones. We tried to keep we kept all the staff. You know, myself and the other two directors of the business, we all went on the government subsidy of wages, and just kept it ticking over, staying in touch with all the gyms. And then when they started coming online, you know, Australia wasn't heavily infected. New Zealand, another big
success story.
Yeah, success story for us. They've done extremely well. So there was always a gym or a series of two open, which kind of kept us ticking along and kept us motivated. So, but I'm looking forward to getting some of these gyms up and running, especially Cork and, you know, John's, and there's so many great gyms that are just dormant at the moment. It's crazy.
Yeah, of course. And you mentioned there the amount of the different countries that you're in, and I believe you're in almost 100 gyms now in more than 50 cities. And you've recently just acquired as well the former Bellator matchmaker Rich Chou, which for those who don't know who Rich Chou is, like, he's one of the most popular faces in MMA, and I imagine it's going to be a huge acquisition because of his contacts in MMA. What do you see with Rich being on board now, the growth, and what's the potential for it, I suppose, in the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, it's so hard to predict because I've had these pinch yourself moments throughout the 9 years I've been doing this. You know, I grew up, you know, I came through this as an MMA fan and as a coach and as a student. GSP, I used to follow before he got in UFC, and he was always my favorite. And if someone had said to me, you know, 9 years ago or 8 years ago, you know, your program one day is going to be in TriStar for us, I'd be like, shut up, you know. And John, you know, there's been so many moments. So I have no idea where it's going to go, to be honest. I mean, we're just going to keep growing. There's markets we want to get into, Asia, chatting to a couple of gyms in South Africa at the moment, mainland Europe. I think there's, and in terms of the program moving, I mean, there's projects that I'm working on at the moment that are kind of in line with the program, with Wimp program, and IMMAF. So we've been working on this youth scholarship program. So basically, every person that does a series, the business will donate some money to the federation of that country. So the amateur body, you know, all the IMMAF bodies that we deal with, and that will go into a separate fund where they can then put that towards youth programs and supporting their athletes to go overseas and compete. So that's a project I'm really passionate about. The business itself, not so much. Well, I'm not really involved with this side, but they've been working a lot on tech recently. They've the last couple of years, they've got a new app that's going to be coming out, which will track people's training and give them a lot of stats, and coaches will be able to interact. And you know, there's lots of cool things like that. But for me, it's just continued growth and just getting more and more people into the sport. But now really trying to give back to like the federations, because being involved, you know, I've been the president of the Australian Federation here for nearly 2 years now, and it's a struggle. There's no funding, there's no money. You know, everything you do, it's crazy, you know. And you know, you're trying to support the gyms and put on shows, and so I really want to try and create some income for the federations, and you know, really, because what we do with zero money is crazy. So, you know, give us a bit of funding, you know. I'm going to get the sport recognised in Australia, and my goal is to have MMA in the 2032 Olympics which there's good chances in Australia, in Brisbane. So that's so I'm doing a lot of stuff on NSO, national sports bodies, and trying to create the stuff that's needed to get recognition by the Olympics. So lots of plans. The business will keep growing. Rich Chou's amazing sign. So my business partner brought him in. I had nothing to do with it. Nick contacted him, and he loved the idea of coming on board. You know, he's very much a martial artist. He's seen what it does for people, and going from that very high end where you're dealing with fighters and purse money, you know, you kind of lose a little bit of the martial arts. It becomes too much of a business, you know. Whereas what we do, it's all about changing lives and monetizing gyms. Exactly. He loves that. So it's going to be good.
Excellent. And just to change of pace, I suppose you kind of mentioned the IMMAFs there a couple of times, and your own role as the IMMAF Australia president. Obviously, first off, congratulations on the medal haul from the Oceanias just over a year ago. That must have been a kind of, outside of Wimp to Warrior, it must have been one of the bigger moments in your career. Yeah,
it was great. I mean, it's you know, I can't really take, you know, it's the athletes, and I've got a great coaching staff. I've put a great coaching staff together here now. You know, Brian Eversole is heading it up. You know, Ed Bavlock, who's was just kind of in transition, leaving us. He's now in Belfast. He's a great coach. But yeah, it was an amazing event, and it was literally the last thing that happened ever around the world before COVID shutting it down. We just got in time, so we were very lucky. But yeah, we had a very good result, and we're now ranked 5th in the world, which is amazing. So no pressure. We've
Yeah,
got to
exactly.
keep moving forward now.
Have to keep that ball rolling. And of course, IMMAF
Yeah,
events are returning in 2021. We've got news that the
yeah,
juniors will be taking place and the worlds in Kazakhstan.
yeah,
Obviously, positive move, and it's something to look forward to for all the amateur athletes, because I know, especially here in Ireland, a lot of the amateur athletes have had no competition now for over a year, and it's kind of a
yeah.
struggle to find anything that a kind of an event that is going ahead. We touch on it a lot in the podcast, myself and Liam, about IMMAF and how it's kind of reshaping the sport, and how we predict in the future there'll be a lot of in the major promotions, there'll be a lot of champions and contenders after coming through those IMMAF ranks. Is that something you foresee in the very near future, or do you think it'll take some time yet before we get there?
No, I mean, it's happening now. I mean, there's probably at least a dozen IMMAF athletes now in the UFC. You've got Bellator, you know, Brave. I don't think we've got, I think we have one or two in one, but you know, I talk to the athletes about it because, you know, there's a lot of amateur athletes in Australia that still don't really understand what the IMMAF pathway is, you know, and it's such a great platform for athletes. If you do well at the Worlds, you've got every chance of being signed. You know, an athlete that's on the local scene here in Australia, what chance have they got of being seen by one of these big promotions? Nothing, you know, and you're beating guys on a local circuit. You go to the Worlds, the standard is so high, and the fact that you're competing and making weight up to 5 days in a row to get to the finals.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking for a tough kid, tough athlete that's skilled, there's no better place to find them. So I think it's just going to keep moving forward. I think every federation globally, you know, my job here in Australia is to get more awareness and more people involved. With our teams getting bigger every year. So yeah, I think it will be the place where talent scouts go to find the next, you know, John Jones or Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey or whatever.
It seemed like we're after moving from a sport that only 7-8 years ago people more or less started their career professional. They might have had a couple of amateur fights, and now it seems they're building up as many fights as possible at an amateur level, which is great for the sport, and to see it being on that level. Is that kind of give you confidence? You said there, you mentioned about the Olympics and trying to get recognition for the Olympics. And like, even if I just look at Ireland, I think we're a long way behind still trying to get that recognition as a sport in Ireland. Even though the guys at IMMA are working incredibly hard to get that recognition, they're hitting stumbling blocks, and I know it's very similar around the world. Do you see it as a realistic possibility for 2024, so for the Olympics, to get recognition, or kind of what time frame do you think that it would take to get there?
Well, I mean, the aim was 2028, which is the LA. That's what we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah.
But there is stumbling blocks, and there's a lot of people that don't want us in the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know, for a combat sport to go in, one's got to come out.
Yeah.
And everyone knows once we go in, no one, I mean, you get to watch MMA, or you go and watch, you know, guys in gis throwing each other around. I mean, it's karate or taekwondo or whatever, but it's you know, it's a struggle. But these are all the things that I've been working on for a while, and I think, I mean, I'm working on things that I believe will make the process a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because the big pushback for Olympic recognition is the fact that, and it's so easy, we're literally giving the ammunition to these people that don't like us, is they just turn around and say, there's no cage fighting. We're not having cage fighting in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And, you know, they say that there's no sport in MMA. And it's actually, unless you're actually deep in the sport of MMA, you're in the industry. I mean, people only think of mixed martial arts as people fighting in cages, either very high amateur level, which is IMMAF, or, you know, professional fighters, prize fighters, which, you know, once you're a professional, you can't go in the Olympics anyway. So where are these people coming from? So I think the image has to change. I think we need to create the sport of MMA, which is missing, because, you know, what other sport in the world do you know that, you know, if you think about Formula One, okay, so, you know, you look at all the Formula One drivers, they started as kids in go-karts, going around the local tracks, and then they build up, and then they go through the engines get bigger, the tracks get wider and stuff, and they go Formula 3, Formula 2.
Yeah.
In MMA, it's literally you train in a gym and you have to wait 3 years possibly to have your first competition.
Yeah.
And then it's literally almost identical rules that a professional has.
Yeah.
There's no stepping stones.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no other sport in the world that has that. So that's a very easy pushback for people that don't want us in the Olympics. There is no sport, and it's cage fighting. So I've been working on a mat-based competition for a while, and I've done a few trials, a slightly different rule set, but I think it could be the answer. So we have a platform where people can train and then compete in a less a stricter rule set. So basically, there's techniques you can't do that you can do at amateur level at the moment. So there's levels and allows people to get and move up. But also, it's the sport competition is no one really competes unless they want to be a fighter.
Yeah.
We need to be able to give people a platform that they can compete because they want to compete. It's just like go and join your local football club or soccer club. It's not necessarily you don't want to be the next David Beckham, but it's nice to go and play with the team and put all the things you've been training into practice.
Yeah.
There isn't anything in MMA. You've got to get in a cage in front of a load of drunks at the local show and fight. I mean, so I think there needs to be change. I think there's a lot of stuff we're doing. I mean, Danny Corr's doing some amazing work, Belfast, with his youth program. That's a massive tick for things like the Olympics, youth programs. We've got all the educational platforms. We've got the coaching courses. We've got a progression system now for the syllabus for mixed martial arts. We're tweaking it, but I mean, we'll get there with that. But I think creating the sport of mixed martial arts, which is out of a cage, recreational competition in mixed martial arts. Yeah. I think if we can get that image, it will take time. But when in 3 years, 4 years time, if someone says mixed martial arts, they don't just think of the UFC.
And they don't think of the cage as their first image.
Weekend, kids, mums, dads, all competing. If we can create that, then I think we stand a very good chance.
Where do you think Wimp to Warrior plays a role in this? Because I know you mentioned about the kind of traditional that it's 3-4 years before you get to enter and get a taste of competition. And as well, you mentioned there right at the end about that all family can do it. And like I take just a season of Wimp to Warrior I did, there was a couple of people in their late teens, young adults. There was competitors in their 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s, all in that season. And within 6 months of training, and the training is extensive and you get a lot in the 6 months. But within that 6 months, we got our first taste of competition at the end. Do you see this as kind of a progression as to the way the sport might head towards with this program and that people can kind of transition into the sport a little bit easier?
Yes and no. I think a lot of people that do Wimp to Warrior we call them personas, our marketing team. There's people you target. One of the bigger ones, groups that do it are, like the bucket list. They've climbed some big frigging mountain somewhere. They've done skydiving. They're adrenaline junkies basically, and they want to do this and they want to tell their mates that they've fought in a cage. But then, we've also, then you get all the people that are using it as a reset, and the program, it basically does what it says, it basically takes them to a point where once they've finished the program and they've stepped in a cage, and fought without fear and with excitement, then they've proven to themselves that they can do anything in life. Yeah. Most of them don't then want to then go and repeat that process. Yeah. Because they've got out of what they want, the goals that they wanted and they set themselves, they've reached. Most people carry on training, but the competition, because like I say, it's such a tough business, and it's I think if we had something in between, like this mat-based competition, 100%, more people would then use that and compete. But where do they go after Winter Warrior? You know, you're then training to get on the local amateur circuit.
Yeah.
You know,
which is a different level again. It's people that are training for years. Exactly. Yeah. So exactly. I suppose, like you said, it's not really aimed at athletes. It's kind of more at that experience than the athletes themselves. Going back to the IMMAFs, and kind of touching on it becoming a sport in the Olympics. I think what they're doing in the IMMAFs right now, for anyone that's a fan of the sport and does watch the IMMAFs, they'll attest to this, that the level that's happening at the IMMAFs over the course of the last 6 to 7 years, I mean, there's very few sports in the Olympics has athletes at that level, consistently at that level, competing in any sport. I think it should be a no-brainer, but is it just a political thing that's stopping it mostly from reaching Olympic recognition?
100%. Yeah, it is. I mean, look, there's obviously people that don't like what we do because they don't understand it. They just see violence.
Yeah.
The cage that we compete in doesn't help. But there is definitely, you know, there's a lot of politics involved.
Yeah.
You've got people that have been in the Olympics for a very long time, have a lot of say in what goes on and who comes in, who comes out, that are from combat sports.
Yeah.
And they don't want us in there. So, you know, we have to just go above and beyond, you know, what anyone else would have to do to get in the Olympics. I mean, look, breakdancing, you know, come on. I mean, yes, they're athletic, but
it's not a sport.
I mean, yeah, look, and
I'll say it if you want. It's not a sport.
Yeah, you get hate now. But, you know, wrestling, you know, pancration. These are all the original Olympic sports. It's what the Olympic sports was built on.
Yeah.
You know, and MMA is the closest you'll get to that. And but it's people just think of MMA as Bellator and UFC.
Yeah, there's still a stigma.
And people trying to get into it.
Yeah.
They don't. Well, there is no image of sport MMA. So this is the thing I'm really concentrating on doing now.
Well, fingers crossed anyway that we can get something done for 2028. I know it would be a huge coup for the MMA community, because it's funny, you see, like I'd be in touch with a lot of the MMA community, and it seems to be still just that people follow UFC and they follow Bellator, but as a sport as a whole, that it doesn't get, even from its own community, it doesn't get the love that it should.
No, absolutely. There's a lot of people that don't believe in IMMAF, and to be honest, they're most of them are very old school, you know, and because it's coming, you know, and I talk to guys over here, you know, you have to have governance in a sport, especially a sport that, you know, things can go wrong with, you know, and to have countries where there's no governance and people can do what they want, they can change rules, you know, there's no checks, you know, it has to be done. But people have been doing their own thing for so long, they think it's like the big brother coming in. But what they don't see is what all the work we're doing to try and create the sport and make it bigger and stronger, which is only going to benefit them in the long run anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know, coaching accreditations, you know, police checks, all these things that they have to be done.
Yeah. With any sport, it's done.
Exactly.
It's the norm.
Yeah. If I'm taking my kid somewhere, I want to know that the guy that's teaching her is, one, checked by the police, and two, is qualified to do whatever he's doing.
Yeah, of course.
We don't have that system. I mean, we do now because, you know, we've got the coaching accreditation courses. You know, I've been running them now for a couple of years in Australia, but everyone should be accredited. Everyone should be checked.
Yeah.
There should be some sort of governance and quality control.
And I know over here in Ireland, IMMAF are doing a fantastic job at that as well, at giving the coach accreditation. And even I look at the likes of John Goddard and what he's doing in the UK and running the courses for refereeing and judging and criteria, and even running it for gym owners and coaches so that they understand rule sets, everything. There is a lot being done. It's just, it's not given enough airtime, in my opinion.
No, it's not. It's not. But, you know, it's... is what it is.
Yeah, an uphill battle.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you all evening.
It's fine.
I suppose for the rest of 2021, what does it look like for you personally, and what does it look like for Wimp to Warrior as a company?
I'll say Wimp to Warrior first, because a lot of the stuff I'm doing personally, it's not all just Wimp to Warrior. So
Yeah.
Wimp to Warrior, helping gyms come back online, giving those guys support, trying to fill their gyms up as much as we can, get them monetized, get the coaches paid, and then just keep moving. I mean, we're going to have our biggest expansion is obviously going to be in North America with Rich coming on board. Like you say, you won't hear of a more popular guy than him. Everyone loves him. His heart's in the right place. He doesn't do anything wrong by anyone. He can walk into any gym and they're just going to listen to him.
Yeah.
So the North American thing is going to be very big for us. Martin Stapleton is now come on. He's our UK head coach. So he's going to be helping our expansion now into the UK as it starts to open up again. So yeah, that's, I mean, and obviously I mentioned the tech that's coming out later on this year. So yeah, it's forward, more gyms. We've got some cool stuff coming with the tech as well, and we're actually I'm putting together like the youth scholarship and all these things, which there's a crossover there with IMMAF as well. And then with IMMAF, it's trying to get a couple of events. I was on a call earlier. Myself and the New Zealand team over there, we're going to do 2 events. So we're going to have an event in June. No one knows about this yet. So, and then we're going to probably call it, the Anzac Invitational. So basically, it's going to be an opportunity for us to take some athletes over there that are on the cusp or they're in the team already and they need a little bit of get some ring rust off them. And then we'll go over there and it'll be a 2-tier competition. We'll go over there and then, winners go through. It'll be a pool of, 4 people in a bracket maybe. And then they come back to Australia in September and then we have the finals, give some belts out. So that'd be really cool. A couple of really good events.
Yeah.
And then the Worlds. So hopefully...
all going well, yeah.
The world will carry on opening up and we won't have to do hotel quarantine, because if I get stuck in a hotel up to Christmas Eve and I come home, I will not be very popular.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose just touching on what you mentioned there about the IMMAFs, are those events, if they're going ahead in June and August, are they going to be events that we'll be able to see on the IMMAF website and on their platforms?
Well, they're not. These are just. This is a tournament we're doing between
in-house,
the 2
kind of. Yeah.
They're not. Yeah, not official IMMAF ones. It's just that our athletes at the moment. If we go to the Euros at the moment, take a team to Russia, huge expense, come back, and then there's 2 weeks in hotel quarantine.
Yeah.
Which could have cost everyone $4,000 each, and then we have to save up again, and then go. So I'd rather concentrate on the Worlds.
Yeah.
So that's why we've done these 2 events between us, because we've got a travel bubble between Australia and New Zealand. There's no hope.
Yeah, of course.
There's no quarantine or anything. So it's just an opportunity to have a bit of international competition, get the guys ready.
Very good. Hopefully we'll be able to find them somewhere on some stream that we can have a nose at.
Yeah, we're definitely filming it, but
Very good.
I don't know. Maybe we won't. Maybe we keep secret.
Keep it all secret and come out with some monsters at the end of 2021.
I'm coming back out of retirement.
Yeah. You mentioned as well about Wimp to Warrior and kind of what it's hoping to look like in 2021. I imagine a lot of gyms that are struggling at the moment and are looking to reopen in the coming months, be it in different countries that are opening up at different times. Wimp to Warrior is kind of one of those programs that could give their gym a massive boost as they reopen the doors. What would you say to not just gym owners, I suppose, looking to kind of get new members in and an influx of business given everything that's gone on for the 18 months? What would you say to them to sell the Wimp to Warrior program? And what would you say to anyone that's thinking about doing it but on the fence?
Well, if you're thinking about actually taking part in a program, just jump off the fence and just do it. It's the first step is the hardest, as you know, turning up to the trial, and that's the biggest thing. Once you're in it, you're in it, and it's something that, as corny as it sounds, it will change the way you live your life and the way you look at things. And so yeah, it's just go on the website and read some testimonials there.
Yeah.
And talk. But in terms of gyms, for sure. I mean, it's we're actually, well, I say I'm very picky, I guess is the word. It's not the great word, but who I license the program to, because you know, I spent 9 years building this up, and it could go very wrong with something like this, with coaches that don't understand or wouldn't follow the program, or you know. So it's got to be the right gym, it's got to be the right location, and most importantly, the coaches have to be willing to invest a lot of time, effort, and basically love into this group of people.
Yeah.
So there's a process. You can go on the Wimp website, wimpwarrior.com, and it's got all the gym information on there. And I'll talk to any gym.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, you've got to tick a lot of boxes, because it's there's too many people out there that, like we say, about governance and ticking boxes,
exactly.
Insurance, and you know, but the industry is a lot better than it used to be. There's not as many of those guys out there, but happy to chat to any gym owners, any coaches. Contact me through social or through the website.
Excellent stuff. Listen, Richie, I don't want to keep any longer, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and best of luck with everything this year. Hopefully we get you off those crutches in the next couple of weeks and enjoy all the IMMAF competitions and anything with the Warrior for the rest of 2021.
I appreciate it. Thank you, champ.
No problem.
Hope you guys open up soon, eh? Give my love to
Hopefully.
Liam and Mark as well.
I will indeed. Thank you. Thank you.